Hello, everybody. Welcome to CELPIP Live. Thank you so much for joining us. It is officially holiday season, so let me know in the comments if you have any fun plans for the holidays. Um, for now, let's go to our trivia question. Fondue, a winter favorite food, originates in which country? A winter favorite food, fondue, originates in which country? You can. I think you can guess this answer if you just think about it a little bit. I have an idea already. Let me know the answer in the comments below, and if you are correct, I will share your response at the end of our segment. I would encourage you not to Google this or Chat GPT. Just guess based on whatever background information you may have about fondue. For now, let's start our show. Hello again. If you're new here, CELPIP Live was made to help test takers like you understand a little bit more about the CELPIP test. So if you're about to write the test, I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to be notified the next time we go live. In today's episode, we're actually discussing a very important topic, like it's a hot topic for CELPIP test takers, time management strategies, especially for reading. We have other episodes of time management as well. So I would encourage you to watch that too after this. If you want to really know how to improve your time management skills. But today we'll be focusing on specific sections. But enough from me. Let's go welcome our guest. Hi, Brandi. Welcome to our show.
Hello. I already see at least 4 different guesses about where fondue originated from right in our live chat here. And I have my own idea as well. My idea is mentioned in one of these guesses. So I'll hold on to that till the end of today's show and we'll see who has it right. But just thinking about eating right now is making me hungry before we get going on the episode.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this time, especially like if you're on social media, like I am all the time, is my part of my job. There's so much food-based content because there's American Thanksgiving, then there is Christmas. It's a holiday season. It's winter. People are hungrier. There's like warm, cozy recipes. Yeah, so I'm just like perpetually hungry.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at a screen.
Yeah, definitely. It gets us in the mood. I associate holidays with food. But today, we're not here to talk about food, as sad as that is. We're here to do some practice with our reading. So I'm going to share my screen. And why don't we get underway with that? Yeah. So as Ashwati said in her intro, the reading test for CELPIP is a hot topic. We always get tons of requests from you, our viewers, for more help with this challenging part of the whole test. So I'm here today to give you some skills practice, but with a special focus on our time management skills as we aim to complete all the questions on the reading test before the time runs out. So I'm going to begin today by very briefly giving you simply an introduction or an overview to what this test is all about, just in case we've got anyone who's relatively new to CELPIP. So when you take the CELPIP test, you will be in a testing room in front of your own computer station. When you sit to do the reading part of this test, there will be 4 passages that you'll need to read through and answer questions about each. Now, I don't think you need to memorize exactly how many minutes you're going to have on every single part, because that is right on the computer screen. The moment you begin a part, you can see the timer on screen. But I think as you are preparing at home and coming into this test, it's just helpful to have a ballpark range of ideas. So anywhere from 9 to 13 minutes is what you will be spending on any given part of your CELPIP reading test. Now, you will also be answering anywhere from 8 to 11 questions per part, just depending on which part it is. And again, you're going to see right away exactly how many questions you're working through when you get to that particular part. I will mention right now that the reading test is designed specifically to increase in difficulty as you move forward. So your part 1 is going to feel the easiest to you, I'll suggest. The vocabulary is usually more common or relatable. The types of questions you're answering won't be quite as involved, perhaps. And by the time you get to reading part 4, the final part of this test, you're going to notice you are now working at quite an advanced level. So to that end, in today's session, what I thought we could do is look at both reading part 1, the easiest part, and reading part 4. We're just going to jump right into the most advanced. We are going to use the same reading skills and strategies to answer questions from both parts. I've got some practice questions I thought we would do together today. So the takeaway in today's lesson, I hope you'll see, is that you will apply the same strategies regardless of how challenging you're finding the material. If you stick by your time management and the reading comprehension skills, you're setting yourself up for more opportunities for success. So we'll start off with our very first tip that's more about a time management skill. I think this is fairly straightforward, but I'll mention it as we get going here. We must understand, I think, the main ideas of the passage. And I would do that first. I would have a quick look through each paragraph on screen. There are usually 4 to 5 paragraphs in any given part. And if we could skim read very quickly, just for those general ideas, we're going to know what the general topic is of the whole piece. We're also going to know what the focus of each paragraph is. And if we can spend in our reading part 1 about 20 to 30 seconds doing that, we're not reading the whole text. We're not looking for specific details for now. We're just getting acquainted with those main topics, because when we turn our attention next to the questions, we will have a much better sense about where to go back in the passage and look. At no time is it advisable to read the entire passage from start to finish to answer every single question. I don't think any one of us would answer the questions in time. So we have to know what we're looking for. We have to know where to look, and that's going to set us up for success. So let's get going here with our reading part 1. It's called Reading for Correspondence, and that simply means a letter, in this case, an email, when we write to somebody with ideas. So I'll quickly show you what the computer screens are going to look like. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice the questions. All 4 parts are structured this way. So you've got 2 sets of questions you might notice here for your reading part 1. And you'll use that scroll bar, as you can see demonstrated, to navigate up and down the computer screen. On the left-hand side, rather, is where the passage is always going to be located. So you have questions and passage on the same computer screen, making it easier for you to go back and forth between them with your eyes. So the passage that I wanted to workshop with you together today is actually taken from what's called a retired CELPIP test. So in other words, this passage and the questions that we're going to practice together in just a minute, they were once real CELPIP questions on a test, but these particular questions have been removed from circulation. So you'll never ever see this passage or these questions again on a future test. And that is the only way that I can share these publicly with you, of course, to protect the security of the test. This is not publicly available on our website, but again, it is authentic CELPIP practice. So let's sink our teeth into it right now. I've got the entire passage for you on one computer screen, as you can see. Remember what I just showed you in that little video demonstration? If this was the real test, your entire passage would be on the left-hand side of your screen, all 4 or 5 paragraphs. But so we can study together today and look for patterns, I wanted to show you all paragraphs in one particular place. And I myself was the one that numbered the paragraphs for you in orange so that we can keep together as we talk about the material. You won't have numbered paragraphs on your official test. Just thought I'd mention that in case you were wondering. So what I would recommend we always do, whether you're practicing with me now, whether you're practicing at home with one of our free study tests and so on, is when you get to your part 1, you know this is an email. So part of your skim reading ability is to, again, look for the general ideas to get us started. So I would look first at the bottom. And I know that sounds backwards, but if we can find the person's name who is writing this email, his name is Martin Robertson. And then I would just look quickly to the top to figure out who is reading. And we can easily see her name is Ms. Marino. So we just note them in our minds. No need to write them down as they're on screen anyway, but you'll probably get questions about both of these people in a moment. So we might as well figure out who is whom right now before we get started. Okay, that's the easy part. It takes about a second of time to look at each name. So not really much time management involved there. For your reading part 1, what I'd like you to try, at least as you're studying, is take about 20 to 30 seconds of your time to start skim reading each paragraph. And I'm going to demonstrate what the skim reading looks like to start. And then when we transition over to our reading part 4, I'm going to hand the reins over to you and see if you can find your own ideas as well. But I'll demonstrate first in case you're not really sure what skim reading looks like. So starting with paragraph 1 there, your first paragraph is an introduction. Especially in an email, it almost always gives the purpose for writing in the first place. So it's usually short, as you can see here. It's one of the shorter passages. And it's if I just look at the top line, you're looking for the who and the what. as you skim through each paragraph, it's basically the who and the what that's really going to give you just that general overview. Remember, right now, we're not interested in specific details. We'll come back to those later if we need to. But starting in paragraph 1, on the very top line, I notice, and I hope you notice as we start skimming, we see the words Video Atlantic. And those words pop out at our eyes because they start with capital letters, capital V, capital A. And we know that in a piece of writing, when we see capitalized words in the middle of a sentence, like they are here, they usually signify it's the name of a person, a place, or a thing. And when I look at Video Atlantic, that word video makes me understand really quickly, this is probably a store that perhaps rents out videos like in the old days, if you're old enough like me to remember going to a store and renting them rather than streaming. And as I quickly look, even below that, do you see the words DVDs right in paragraph 1? Those are all capital letters as well. So they jump off the page to us. So right away, that's the first connection we're making as a reader. Video Atlantic, it's probably this store that rents out DVDs and such. And we know it's shutting down right away. And that's really all we need to know for now. I do notice in the second line as well, another word that I think is important is a real shame. And Martin Robertson, the fellow that's writing this email to Ms. Marino, clearly is not happy that this store is shutting down. So that's why I think that's sort of a noteworthy idea to let our eyes fall over. Now, really quickly, can I ask all of you, I think this is an obvious question, but I'm going to ask to double check your own comprehension. In the live chat right now, can you let me know who you think Ms. Marino probably is? If all we know right now that Martin Robertson is upset or disappointed maybe that this video store is shutting down, who is Ms. Marino? Why on earth is he writing to her? This is an example of an inference skill where the text doesn't really tell you for sure who she is, but as you're reading, I want you to make these connections on your own. So using the live chat, just quickly let us know, the audience, who Ms. Marino is in your opinion, and Ashwati can perhaps share some of those ideas as they come in.
Hello.
Don't overthink. Yeah. What's the most obvious?
Store owner.
Yeah. Yeah. Did a lot of people say, and by the way, viewers, I can't see your comments when I'm teaching, so I rely on Ashwati to share them. Did everyone suggest perhaps that this is the store owner?
No, good question. So store owner of the store, somebody said customer, 2 people said customer.
Okay.
And then somebody else said store manager of the store.
Same thing.
Yeah, mostly skewing towards owner/manager.
Okay, good. Yeah. And I'll point out as well that in the second sentence of paragraph 1, do you see where I've underlined shame? That whole sentence says, this is a great shame because your store is in our town, da, 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 da. So it's her store. So yeah, I would say she's the store manager. She's the store owner, whatever word you want to think of, but she's the one in charge of this video store. So again, just sort of making connections as you read, I think is going to keep you on track. So she's not a customer in this case. She's definitely the store owner. So we're going to skip over the rest of that paragraph for now. We can come back, but I see it mentions things like foreign films and types of films. We don't care right now. We just want the main ideas. Martin is upset that Video Atlantic is shutting down. He's writing to the store owner to voice his concerns, I guess. So into paragraph 2 now, you'll notice the top couple of lines also give really specific details that I'm just going to skip over for now. I see words like movie net and 24 hours a day and $10 a month. So all of these words or ideas jump at us because they're capitalized or they're numbers. So specific details are usually quite easy to find that way. So right now we don't care. What we do care about is really consolidating the main ideas just to get an overview of the scene. So right in the middle there, Martin says that the internet has changed things. And my eyes, as I'm skimming, notices this conjunction, we'll call it. Anyway, the word, however, indicates a contrast. So the internet is changing things, but what Martin is saying is, oh, there's just nothing better than renting DVDs from your store. So once again, sort of the same idea reinforced. And I want you, as you're reading anything, to start looking for patterns of repetition. So once you think you know what the main topic is in paragraph 1, you should be able to find that main topic addressed in every other paragraph of the text. If it's not, chances are you don't yet have the correct main topic. So when you're skimming, just double check it's the same idea that is stated throughout. There will be slightly different focuses of each paragraph. Like in paragraph 2, we did see information about streaming platforms like MovieNet, right? So if there's a question later about streaming, we'll probably come back to paragraph 2. But for right now, we're going through this hopefully quickly to see. On to paragraph 3. Again, my eyes are picking out specific details all about, I guess, what Martin's wife likes to watch and how long these shows are. Don't care right now. We just want to skip that for a moment. I do see information again about Video Atlantic and renting videos. So I know we've got the main topic. That's what this whole thing is about, is Martin's penchant or passion for the store that used to be. Again, look at the contrasting word, nowadays. So he's kind of stuck in the past, isn't he? He really wants to go back and have the store continue to work in business. And this one talks about how it's just too expensive to go to the cinema, etc. So I think that's kind of what we need to know from paragraph 3. That's important. Everything here lends us to believe what we already knew to be true, is that Martin really wants that store to remain open, and it's a shame it's not going to. Okay, paragraph 4, not much to really report new. It's just sad. It's just sad that the store is going. A quick skim reveals just elaboration on that point. And in paragraph 5, right in the very top, you might have noticed quotation marks. When you see words that are inside those quotation marks, they're important. So I want you to note them. And this says end of an era sale. And so another quick glance there looks like words like libraries and universities. I guess they're buying all the product that used to exist at this video store, which makes sense. So in a nutshell, Martin's upset that the store will be no more, and so on, right? We've talked about this in quite some length because I'm trying to differentiate or distinguish between the specific details that we'll skip for now and the main ideas, which we've more or less captured here in the underlined phrases. So once you do this, and I know it takes more time to skim read first before you get to the questions, but I think if you can invest even 30 seconds to accomplish this much, it's an investment that's going to actually save you time when you get to the questions. And this is what I want to prove to you right now. We're going to do 3 questions of the top 5 parts in this part, and we're going to see how quickly we can answer them. And I know you can answer this question without even looking back at the passage. So this is question 1 from this particular test. Why did Mr. Robertson, so that would be Martin, write to Ms. Marino? And you can see those 4 answer choices there. So let me know as soon as you can, please, in the live chat, which is the right one based on what we've learned from skim reading main ideas throughout. Is it A, he wants to buy some more DVDs? B, he is upset about the store's future? C, he thinks she, meaning Ms. Marino, should sell DVDs online? Or is it D, he is sad she has found another job? Why did Martin write to Ms. Marino? What do you think?
So overwhelmingly, our audience has picked B.
Overwhelmingly, you'd be absolutely correct. And again, my point is, because we saw that idea time and time again in literally every paragraph, we know that it has to be the main idea. Now, I wanted to draw your attention to the question, the way it's worded. Why did Mr. Robertson write to Ms. Marino? What you're basically being asked to discover is, what is the main idea of this entire email? It's the same comprehension skill. It's just worded a little differently. You're trying to find the purpose statement. And we know the purpose, boy, because we've looked all the way through and discovered it time and again. So again, just to sort of emphasize that, there's the first 2 paragraphs. Right in the opening, Martin says, it's a shame the store is closing. And of course, it was nothing better than your own DVDs, and on it goes. You know, it was better to rent your DVDs. It's sad to see you go, etc. So everything here points to the future of the store, which is basically no future at all. The store is closing down. Okay, so we knew that. You probably wouldn't have to go back to the text to look through it again, saving you time is the point I'm trying to make here. Can we move on to question 2? And I think you can answer this lickety-split as well, meaning very, very quickly. What will Video Atlantic soon do? Is it A, close down its store? B, make a library donation? C, increase its rental fees? Or D, hold a large video sale? Which one makes the most sense based on what we've just talked about so far? Let us know when you know.
So we have A. I think that's nobody has given any other alphabet so far, letter of the alphabet. Only A.
All right, I'll give it just a minute. I did do this activity once in a private Zoom session, and I was surprised that a lot of people did select another option. So I'll just give it a moment just to see if anybody else also goes down that road. And I'll clarify for you which one's right. Give it just a second. Are we all going with A?
Yes, we are all going with A.
Well, I'm pleased. That is the right answer. So first and foremost, what will Video Atlantic soon do? Well, again, paragraph 1 literally tells you Video Atlantic is shutting down. Now, I know the verb tenses there is shutting down doesn't immediately cry out future verb tense. I know a lot of us expect to see the word will when there's a future action, but it does indicate the action that is going to happen very soon into the future. So your knowledge of timeframes and verb tenses on any reading comprehension piece is going to help you fully understand. So this is what the store is going to do very, very soon. The video is going to close. So answer choice A is correct. I did cover these particular questions in another private Zoom lesson, as I was mentioning here. A lot of the students selected D, hold a large video sale. And initially, as a teacher, I was kind of surprised, but then I totally understood why they thought this could be true. So I know none of you today selected this, but I thought it was worth discussing why D is not correct, just in case others watch this video in the future and wonder. So remember, the video sale was mentioned in paragraph 5. So remember, we'd underlined it. End of an era sale. End of an era sale is in quotation marks. So that's what this whole paragraph is about. I just really want to draw your attention again to the verb tenses. So paragraph 5 says it mentioned, past tense, right, in the newspaper that you threw an end of an era sale. So the sale has already taken place. And if you keep reading paragraph 5, Martin himself even says that he missed the sale. He was kind of upset about that. So this sale has already happened. But question number 2 doesn't ask about the past. It asks about the future. What will the store soon do? So since that sale has already taken place, it can't be the correct answer. The only other answer that does make sense from that future verb tense lens would be A. Again, I just thought I'd clarify that. I can't stress enough how, reading comprehension involves lots of skills. It's not just about verb tenses, but understanding fully what time frame all the events are occurring in anything you read is really going to keep you on track and understand the sequence of things better. So maybe just in future, if you've never really considered the verb tense situation as we're talking, just be mindful if things are happening in the past, present, or future as you're reading through. And then the brain starts to sequence them and it makes better sense. So that's my only point there. But it looks like you all went right to A to begin with. So good job there. That is the right answer. Okay, now we're going to skip ahead. We don't have time to do all the questions, of course, today, but I wanted to skip ahead to question 5. Why does Mr. Robertson prefer renting DVDs to going to the cinema? I remember the cinema was mentioned, and I remember the cinema was mentioned in paragraph 3. My brain actually does visualize information as I read, so I'm very good at remembering what part to go back to. Lucky for me, that's the case. Maybe some of you are like-minded. If not, what you'd have to do is find the paragraph that talks about the cinema. But we've already noted it, right, when we skimmed. So for right now, can we at least answer this question? And then we'll go to the paragraph to double check. All right, so why does he prefer renting DVDs to going to the cinema? Is it A, he dislikes the snacks sold at the cinema? B, it costs less money to rent a DVD? C, he can watch DVDs more than once? Or D, the cinema is on the other side of town?
Hello. So we have a few different answers this time.
Okay, interesting.
So we have B.
Okay.
And B. And then we also have a C.
Okay. All right. So when this happens, so again, if you've read it very carefully the first time and have an excellent memory, some of us are blessed with great memory skills. You might know this already, but if not, this is where you would recognize at the very least, this question is asking you something to do with the cinema. So in that case, you would want to go back to that paragraph and double check. I will reveal the right answer first this time, and it is indeed B. It costs less money to rent a DVD. Let's double check that we understand why this one is correct. So in paragraph 3, remember how Martin started talking about, again, renting videos at Video Atlantic was great. And now he says nowadays, so that's the transition to the cinema piece. Nowadays, he says it's just too expensive to go to the cinema. And he finished that whole paragraph by saying DVD rentals are definitely the better choice. So if it's too expensive to go to the movie theater or the cinema, clearly then we would make the assumption that B, it costs less money to rent a DVD, is very much the reason why Martin wants the store to remain open. At no point in here does it definitively say that he can watch DVDs more than once. It is true. Like if we can step back from this CELPIP reading passage and you just think about the way things work in the real world, those of you that still have a DVD player and DVDs to play, you could watch your DVD as many times as you wish in the real world. But that is not relevant here in the passage. In paragraph 3, the facts and details that are given to us point only to choice B. very definitively if you look at all those underlined phrases. So it doesn't mention in here that Martin just enjoys watching DVDs multiple times. So we can't select that, even if you like to watch DVDs in the real world. So this is another, I wouldn't say it's a common misstep, but just remember when you're answering questions on any test, like the CELPIP, it's always about the facts in front of you. Sure, sometimes you do have to make inferences or assumptions, but at no point should you be backing away from this material and thinking about what you like to do in the real world and going with that answer. So it's really important that you stick to the facts in front of you for all questions on your test, just to be more proficient with that. Anyway, this leads us to another time management tip. You might already know this, but if not, I'm going to point it out now. Most of the questions for this reading part 1 anyway are going to follow the same order as all those ideas that are presented in the passage. So this makes it easier for you when you're answering questions back and forth between the text and the questions on the same computer screen. Wherever you answered the last question, you probably will just continue on reading from that point next. So as I said, you shouldn't be going back to the beginning of the text every time you have a question to answer. So I'll show you what I mean. This is the same passage we've already looked at in lots of detail now. If you remember about 5-10 minutes ago now, our very first question we did as a group asked, why did Mr. Robertson write to Ms. Marino? So this is basically the main idea of the whole passage. So I'm going to say, I'll put question 1, the answer to question 1, I'll say, right at the top of the screen, meaning we basically had to look at ideas discussed all the way through in all 5 paragraphs to answer that. So it's kind of the introduction, and it is the main topic of the whole piece. But the second question we answered, if you can recall, we asked, what will Video Atlantic soon do? And we got the answer right away here. We did not answer question 3 together as a group, but if we had, I'll let you know this is where it would have been found. And likewise with question 4, we didn't actually answer that question together. But if we had, this is where those details would have been found. The next question, question 5, was the one we just did about why does Mr. Robertson prefer renting DVDs to going to the cinema? So no surprise, it comes next. And there is a question 6, which we didn't get to today, but it would have been found here. Okay, so usually, and I'm not going to say always, we could never just memorize this as a rule and apply it forevermore. All right, sometimes and oftentimes in English or testing, there might be the odd exception. So we have to be open-minded. But what I'm presenting here is what I call the rule of thumb. That is an expression that means generally, usually, most of the time, this is a pattern that will be true moving forward. Okay, so again, take it with a grain of salt. Another good idiom, meaning don't hold it to 100% accuracy. But for the most part, as I say, if you've answered question 3 and you found that info in paragraph 2, chances are you'll be able to move on to the top of paragraph 3 as you continue. So I find this is helpful again, from a time management standpoint. Don't go back and start reading from the top every single time you need to find an answer. Anyway, good job there with the work on reading part 1. What I'd like to do next is take those exact same comprehension skills and all of those time management strategies, and we're going to skip over parts 2 and 3 of the CELPIP reading test and jump right into the final part, part 4, which is the most advanced. This section is called Reading for Viewpoints, and I'll just quickly set it up for you as to what's expected. So viewpoints are opinions, we'll call them, or perspectives. So basically, you'll be presented again with your reading passage. It's up to you to figure out what the main topic of the passage is. We're going to do that together today, just like we did for reading part 1. We're going to skim read through each paragraph to pull out those general ideas. So once you know what the main topic is, you then have to be on the lookout for different people. They'll be mentioned by name. They'll be mentioned by job title sometimes. There will be anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 people, I would say, on average. Once you've located these people in the text, if it were me, I would take notes even. I would write down their name. You want to know what their opinion or viewpoint is about the main topic. You also want to understand why they feel that way. So these are advanced level comprehension skills because you will be hopefully connecting personally as you're reading to understand the feelings of these people. And you'll likely be making many more inferences and assumptions based on the material in front of you. So I'll help you with it, and we'll see how those reading skills carry through. So as we did before, I just want to show you what the screen looks like. No surprises here. On the left-hand side, you've got your reading passage. That will always be the case all the way through, reading parts 1 to 4. It's about the same length on average, right? 4 or 5 paragraphs. And again, you've got your questions here on the right 2 sets of questions, just like we saw in our reading part 1 as well. So the structure itself has not changed, but what has changed, as you will see now, is that this is at a much higher level. There are some very high level vocabulary words that you might not understand. For now, that's okay. Remember, we're going to do a skim read. What we're going to do is rely on words that we do understand. If there's a word we absolutely need to know, we're going to try our best to take a guess as to its meaning based on how it's used in the sentence. But I think as we're skim reading for main points, there will be, I'm hoping, enough words for you to work with that you actually do understand, so that at the very least, you can understand the general topic. So let's get right to that now. And I'm just going to remove the other 4 paragraphs and leave you with paragraph 1. I'm not going to help you first. I want to see if you can skim read this through. And I'd like you to find, please, the who and the what. I think the who is pretty obvious. I can see his name staring at me right there on the screen. So when you see the name, please share it with us in our live chat. And I want to know who this person is, job title, and what it is this person's doing, if you can. Who and what, always the 2 most important, I would say, from your general understanding all the way through. If you've got that much, at least you've got a basic understanding, I would say. Okay. Any ideas yet?
No, we don't have any ideas yet.
Okay.
But I have faith in my viewers that they'll have the right idea. Okay. Bradley is a French teacher.
Okay.
Bradley
Okay.
Gordon, French teacher.
Okay.
Bradley Gordon.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So Bradley Gordon. So some of you said Bradley right away, which is great. I'm going to just give you a little tip for your reading part 4, because it's kind of like a newspaper article. It's more formal anyway. And in a formal piece of writing, it's usually the last name is more important than the first. So it's great that you noticed his name is Bradley, but I want you to know his last name, because I'm pretty positive, having done a gazillion CELPIP practice tests and just I read a lot, chances are throughout this article, we're sometimes going to see Bradley Gordon, but I bet you we're going to see Mr. Gordon or Gordon and so on. So you just need to know it's the same person. That's my point. Just know first name and last name and recognize who that person is. Now, you said that he was a French teacher. Yeah, interesting. It says Bradley Gordon's French class. I immediately thought it was a teacher as well. But then as I stepped back and tried to look at this from the lens of some of you, did anyone here today wonder if maybe he's a student in the French class? Bradley Gordon's French class. Did anybody say that, Ashwati?
That is a good, I mean, right as you were talking about it, I thought, maybe it could be a student. But no, nobody here has, everybody has the same idea of like a teacher. That's interesting. Would they have put a Mr. Bradley Gordon if it was a teacher?
See, this is the thing. So again, my instinct was just saying Bradley Gordon's French class. I just assumed it was the teacher. And partly because then the next thing says these students are riding on exercise bikes. So it's almost like Bradley Gordon is talked about in a different group from the students. But because it's not 100% clear, as you continue to read in paragraph 2, these are one of the details that you're going to want to clarify. So just be mindful. If you notice that, you'll say, I think it's the teacher. As I keep reading, I know it's going to be made obvious. You can assume that and just double check, which way it goes, because you need to know, is he a teacher? Is he a student? Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense, right? So anyway, Bradley Gordon's French class. What's happening in the French class that is so unusual? Can you look at the last 2 lines there in paragraph 1? Just pull out even one word from those last 2 lines that indicate the unusual approach to teaching that happens in this class. What's going on in this French class? I guess we're learning French for starters, sure, but what else is happening in this class? It's kind of weird. Sorry?
Exercise.
Exactly, yeah. So the fact that it's exercise bikes and yoga balls, I don't care about that right now. That's way too specific, right? It's exercise. Oh, weird. These students are exercising as they're learning. That's kind of unusual, right? So that much we've gleaned, and it looks like it's just a mix of both. So we're basically exercising, we're studying, we're learning in Bradley Gordon's French class. So we'll move on to paragraph 2 now. Again, right at the beginning, you're going to see some very specific ideas like obesity, ADHD. I don't know if you're all familiar with these terms, but they're more or less challenges that face people around the world, but we're talking about students in particular. So these are those specific details that for now, we're just going to ignore. We just want to double check that we understand the main idea of this passage first. So something to do from paragraph 1, something to do with Bradley Gordon and exercising and learning. So I would look for Bradley Gordon's name. That's the first thing I would do here. So I skim through, I skip over those specific details, and I knew this was going to happen. Yeah. See how we dropped the Bradley? Mr. Gordon. Now, Ashwati more or less gave us a helpful tip just earlier when she said, oh, well, if the person's referred to as Mr., in this case, Mr. Gordon, this is now a position of authority. We wouldn't use Mr. and a last name for a student. So if there was any doubt from that first paragraph, if Bradley Gordon was the teacher or the student, you now know that he is definitely the teacher. Notice that it doesn't come right out and say, Mr. Gordon, the French teacher. These are details that you're picking up as you go and making connections with and thinking about how it works in the real world. When you were in school, I don't know about you, but I referred to all of my male teachers as Mr. last name. So that's kind of that connection. And we just want to make sure that paragraph 2 is still talking about how Mr. Gordon mixes exercising and studying. And if you look right below his name there, we see evidence, studying and physical activity. So I think even by finding the repeated main point there in these first 2 paragraphs, I'm feeling very confident that this whole passage is all about Mr. Gordon's relatively unusual style of teaching. That would be my assumption, again, based on all the other passages I've ever read and understanding how ideas are portrayed. So let's move on to paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 mentions Gordon right in the beginning. We don't even have the Mr. anymore. We've dropped that too. We just have the last name Gordon. So we're still talking about this French teacher. Your eyes cannot help but notice in the top line, because it's right after his name, it's talking about Mr. Gordon's personal experience in university. Now here's a shift. And as an astute reader, as somebody who's making these deep comprehension patterns between what you're reading about, I want you to really notice the shift. The first 2 paragraphs are talking about Mr. Gordon, the French teacher, mixing studying and exercise in his classroom. Now, all of a sudden in paragraph 3, we're still talking about Mr. Gordon, but now we're talking about his own experience at school when he was in university himself. That's a huge shift to make, right? From teacher to the past of student. So this is a reading comprehension skill, but I think it's also going to save you time. When you notice these shifts, what I want you to start doing is to anticipate or to predict or assume what information you're going to be reading about next. And if you can go even further, try to understand why the author of this article would even bother telling us about Mr. Gordon's experience as a student. If you can already come up with some ideas in your own mind, as you're reading through that paragraph, I think you're going to understand the ideas presented much more clearly. Okay, so make connections between what you've already read and this new information coming up. When you do see a shift in focus, as we do here, Mr. Gordon, the teacher, all of a sudden, Mr. Gordon, the student. Can we predict what we're going to be reading about next? Can I throw that out to you? I will put paragraph 3 on screen in case you really do want to read ahead. There's a lot of really tough vocab words here, so it might not be as helpful, but just in simple language, is anyone here able to be brave enough to share in the Zoom chat or the live chat right now? Why do you think we're talking about Mr. Gordon's experience as a university student? What is the value of all of this? Do you have any ideas to share? Why? What's the point? There has to be a point, or the author wouldn't have included this in the article, right?
Are you talking about why the 3rd paragraph is relevant to the entire piece?
Yeah, like why are we now learning about Mr. Gordon's student experience? Isn't he the teacher that's making his students exercise and learn? Why on earth, why would we shift back at the beginning of this paragraph? What do you think we're going to learn about next is what I'm trying to get you to see.
What do you think we're going to learn about next? That's a good question. Okay, so we have a response here. Gordon's university experience led him to innovating teaching with exercise.
Okay, kind of. Would you mind repeating that just in simpler language? As we're discussing ideas, you don't have to be super formal and academic. I mean, you can if you want to, but just so that everybody can understand, because these are high-level vocabulary words, can we just really spell it out? What's happening here? Why are we learning about his experience?
Justify the reason for designing his class the way it is.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah, that would be my assumption too. So the reason why we're learning about his experience as a student, I'm assuming that when he was a student in university, He probably exercised and studied as well. And he must have had success with that strategy, because perhaps that's why now he's actually using that approach in his own classroom. So it would make sense to me if he found success there, he'd likely carry that on through his experience as a teacher. All right. And so when we were able to jump to that conclusion very quickly, just by that topic or that first sentence in paragraph 3, as I'm reading through the rest, you do see some fairly large vocabulary words. So I'm just going to look for words that more or less back up my theory. And sure enough, right down towards the bottom there, you notice that Bradley Gordon's been interviewed and these sentences are written in quotation marks. It looks like that when he was in university, he also started working out while he was studying. So my assumption is correct. He did this himself. I'm assuming it was successful. And sure enough, I see the words here. His grades started improving, and so did his fitness and health. So that's clear, right? When you know or assume what you're going to be reading about next, when you actually see the words, your brain understands it so much more clearly and more quickly, which is the whole point of this. You want to be fast with your understanding so you can get to the questions next. Okay, whoops, before we get to paragraph 4, my next assumption here, and again, this is speaking specifically to the structure of a CELPIP reading part 4. We already know that the whole point of this is to understand the main topic, which I think now we have. It's all about this French teacher using a really unusual approach as he teaches, right? That's what this passage has been about. We've not yet met anybody else in this article. And we know that in reading part 4, reading for viewpoints, we will encounter at least 2 or 3 people with their own opinions about the topic here. So chances are there's only 2 paragraphs left. So I am assuming that we're very likely going to encounter at least another person in paragraph 4. We have to somewhere in the passage, and we're getting close to the end. So again, this is an assumption that I want you to make, because when you know what to look for, you will find it. The very top line again talks about Mr. Gordon. We know this by now off the top of our head. Boy, oh boy, it's been drilled into us. Mr. Gordon has been successful teaching, studying, and academics together. We know this by now. But I do see our very first expert, or another person anyway. Can you find her name for us, please, and her job title, and place it in the live chat? Names are easy to find, remember, because they start with capital letters. So they should just jump off the screen at you and you'll know who it is. What is her name? It's a woman based on the spelling here. What is her name? Who is she? Why is she mentioned? What do you think?
Dawn.
Yeah.
Dawn Epstein, school principal.
That is exactly correct. Yeah. So that's the fast part. As you're skim reading, names are honestly names and numbers, easiest things to find. You don't have to read every word on screen. You're just looking for a name. So Dawn Epstein is the principal of the school. So I guess it makes sense why she's being interviewed for this article. My eyes also couldn't help but notice right before we get school principal. Do you see the word resistance? So my eyes went there. Resistance from the school principal. So resistance means opposition or pushback or disagreement. So clearly, Dawn Epstein does not agree with Mr. Gordon's approach to use studying and exercise together. If we were to continue to read paragraph 4, we would certainly understand, I think, why she feels as she does. I'm going to suggest for now, from a time management standpoint, can we skip that over just for now? When we get to the questions later and we get a question about Dawn Epstein, if we have to understand why she opposes this project, that would be a good time to come back to paragraph 4 that mentions her and find those details. But what if we never get a question about it? What if we don't need to know why she feels this way? There's no sense wasting our time reading about it now. And even if you glance at these words, you're going to be intimidated by some very high-level vocab. So let's just put that on pause for a moment. We can always come back if we need to. It would be the best time management plan. And on to the very final paragraph here, number 5. Ms. Epstein is mentioned in the opening. We do get a secondary person, another person with their own opinion. Can you find that other person's name, please, and their job title? So who is this person? Again, names happen. They come, jump off the page right at you. Look for capitalized words in the middle of a sentence. And it should be quick. Who is this person? This one's a man.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
So you want name and occupation?
Yeah. This is the easy part. Who is he?
Dr. Ratney, psychiatry professor.
Perfect. Yeah. And it says too that he teaches at Harvard Medical School. I'm going to skip that for now. I can always come back and look. Again, the rest of this paragraph probably will tell us what John Ratney feels. Does he agree? Does he disagree? And why? We'll come back to that if and when we get a question about John Ratney. But for now, what we're trying to identify here is that John Ratney is discussed in paragraph 5. I myself like to take notes for reading part 4 because it is so complex. So when I find a name, I write it down immediately. And I try to even capture maybe what paragraph they're found in. So I can come back later really, really quickly. And then I'm just going to double check that Mr. Gordon is still mentioned here. I mean, I'm confident that's the answer, but yeah, Mr. Gordon's here, and a reinforcement that his students are fit and healthy and eager to learn. So again, boy, oh boy, do we have at least the main topic of this article. And we've got 2 people now, Don Epstein and John Ratney, who will have their own opinions and feelings about the success of this plan or not, this teaching style. So this leads us to our next time management tip that can be used throughout any part of the CELPIP test, but I think it's particularly useful for part 4 because it's challenging, it's higher level. So you're always going to have 4 multiple choice answers. You might not know the answer immediately or with certainty, but I think there is always, almost always, an answer, perhaps 2 answers that just don't make a lot of sense. So what I would recommend you do, if you see an answer that you know is incorrect, just sort of cross it off your list. Don't even give it any mind. There's no sense looking for information around that answer choice in the text when you know that it's wrong anyways. And if you can at least eliminate, say, 2 answers from your list of 4, if you get rid of 2 that you think are wrong right away, you've got 2 answers left. And if you spend some time working it through and still don't really know the answer, take a wild guess. Because if you guess correctly, you'll get a point. If you get the answer wrong, nothing happens. There's no penalty. But what I don't want anyone to ever do is please don't get stuck on a question. Don't spend 3 minutes of your time trying to figure out which one is right. I would still keep an eye on your timer, and 30 to 40 seconds per question the first time you go through them all would be a good time plan. You likely will have time left over at the end, and that's when you can return to particularly difficult questions. But please, that's the worst thing you can do is waste all your time on one question and not even finish the rest. That would be my time management tip. So let's do a question now based on what we read. Question 1, the article is about. This is exactly the same question we answered in reading part 1, only the wording's different. In part 1, it says, why was Mr. Martin writing to Ms. Marino? Basically, that question is saying, what is this email about? Well, look at here. The article is about. You're trying to find the main idea. Clearly, the answer choices are longer. This is advanced level. We have some high-level vocab too. But I'm going to just throw it open to you and see if off the top of your head, can you answer this question now? And then we'll look to the text and figure it out together.
Okay, so we have, so far, everybody has responded with A.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pleased to see that. That's the one certainly that makes a lot of sense to me. What I'd like to do is just show you what I mean by eliminating answers that don't make any sense. So here's the first 3 paragraphs on screen. I'm going to underline the key points that we have already discussed. So if you look at sort of answer choice B for a second, do you see how this says an ADHD expert teacher in Carleton High School? Now we know Carleton High School is the name of the school. You can see that in paragraph 1. But we already know that Bradley Gordon teaches French. And this entire passage is all about Bradley Gordon. He is mentioned in literally every single paragraph. He's a French teacher. He is not an ADHD expert teacher. So we're going to eliminate that. And I'll point out, I don't think anybody here today did this, but just in case you did, here's what not to do. ADHD is mentioned a couple of times in paragraph 2. So just because you see the same words as you might see in an answer choice does not mean the answer choice is going to be correct. So this answer choice that we've crossed out says ADHD expert teacher. This paragraph is talking about what ADHD is, and we know that the teacher throughout this whole article is a French teacher. So again, it's just a matter of reading carefully what the meaning is. Don't get hung up on individual word choices and match them and think you have it right. It's always the big picture or idea. Part C, or answer choice C, says a partnership between a gym and a French teacher. We know that Bradley Gordon teaches French, so the French teacher part of that is true, but we know he brings exercise into the classroom. He himself does not have a partnership with any gym. That was not mentioned anywhere. So we know that choice C is incorrect as well. Choice D talks about a program introduced by Carleton High School's principal. If it were my test, I think immediately I would eliminate B and C. You might be a little bit torn between A and D, because after all, Dawn Epstein, the principal, was mentioned as she talked about this program, right? I'm still thinking it's this one like you, but let's have a look at paragraph 4. That's where Dawn Epstein was mentioned. And just to review there, she resists this program. We learned that the first time through. She resists or opposes, disagrees with Mr. Gordon's approach. So if she doesn't agree with that approach, D cannot be correct. She's not going to introduce this program to bring exercise into the classroom when she doesn't think it's a very good approach. So once we logic it through that way and we get rid of that last answer, we're left only with choice A. And it makes sense from the outgo, right? This is all about a high school teacher. The biggest challenge for choice A, I think, is the vocab. Some of you might not know truly what the words conventional and unconventional means. So if that's the case, you're really not sure, eliminate the other choices. You're left with choice A, which is indeed correct. And the word unconventional just means sort of atypical or unusual, not the normal teaching style. So that's what this is. The whole thing's about Gordon and his very unusual or unconventional teaching style. So don't be afraid to spend a bit more time on complex questions that you're not sure about. Get rid of answers that are obviously wrong. If you're left with one answer and time is short, just go with it and move on to the next question. That's probably the best advice. When you click an answer on the test, by the way, the computer will insert it into the blank like you see here in green font. And if ever you want to change your mind and choose a different answer, just click on that already submitted answer choice and the computer opens up the same multiple choice box. So you just have to click something different if you wish, and the computer will switch it for you. You do want to keep an eye on that timer though at the top of your computer screen, because you need to finish all questions before that time gets to 0. So be mindful of that, please. Can we finish today? We're going to go down to the bottom set of questions here. I find these ones a little more challenging, as you might as well, because again, the top part here of questions, they're all individual, standalone. So the brain can chunk the information a little bit easier, I find. But down here, this is an entire response that was written by somebody else regarding the article that you've just read. So the answers that you select as you work your way through are going to blend together and influence the choices you make next. So there's a lot more what we call coherence to take into account here, which makes it an extra challenge. So if you look at the instructions above the square of questions, these blue instructions tell you the following is a comment by a visitor to the website page. Complete the comment by choosing the best option to fill in each blank. So I'm going to start reading out loud this response. And when we get to question 6, I'll open up the answer box and we'll answer together as a group. It says here, interesting article. I've been a high school teacher for 15 years, and I am quite dubious of Mr. Gordon's attempt to, and here are the answer choices. Now, before I read them aloud to you, and you're probably reading them right now, which is fine, that word dubious is high level, and a lot of you might not know what it means. Here's the good news. Time management, right? You don't need to know what it means yet, at least, because this whole question is asking you about Mr. Gordon's attempt. So this writer is indicating their feelings or reaction to Mr. Gordon's attempt. Those answer choices are defining what Mr. Gordon is doing in his classroom. And I think we know what Mr. Gordon is doing in his classroom based on all the discussions we've just had. Can you read through those 4 answer choices now and select the one that best summarizes Mr. Gordon's unconventional approach to teaching, as we discussed? Yeah.
We have B.
Okay. Yeah. Quick and easy and simple. Ta-da. That is the only one that makes sense, right? We can discard literally all the other ones. We know Mr. Gordon is bringing exercise.
Oh, hang on. Somebody said A. I'm not sure if that was a previous response, but there is an A right above the
Okay.
B.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing in the article talked about making the students lose weight. So no, that couldn't be correct. Yeah. So remember, you're summarizing or defining the entire point of Mr. Gordon's teaching method. Literally the only thing that he doesn't make his students lose weight. He doesn't cure ADHD. And we did learn that he went to university, but the focus of this article wasn't on him studying and teaching. It's about his students exercising and studying. So B is the only idea that comes close to accurately summarizing what Mr. Gordon's attempt is. So again, we got lucky there in the sense that we didn't really need to know what the word dubious meant. Dubious, by the way, means doubtful. But truly, if you didn't know what that meant, oh well, in this case, you do know what Mr. Gordon's attempt is. So don't waste your time trying to really think it through. Just get to what you do know, which is the answer in this case. We'll continue on. It says, although Dr. Ratney claims that this project, okay, before we read those really long answer choices, here's where Dr. Ratney comes into play. And I figured his name would come up at some point and would have to. All right, so here's where now we are being forced into it. We go back to the article and we find the paragraph that talks about Dr. Ratney. I recall it was the final paragraph of the section. So you find his name. And now we're going to have to read over some of these ideas that we skipped earlier. Now is the time to read it. So you notice I've underlined for you the ideas Ratney exclaimed as he was being interviewed. Those sentences are inside quotation marks. So somebody was interviewing him on his ideas, and this is what he said. I'll read it out loud. And as you're focusing on the keywords here of Ratney's speech, I want you to look back at those 4 answer choices and select the idea that summarizes what Ratney's talking about. So Ratney says, according to this passage, exercise turns the attention system on and helps with working memory, prioritizing, and sustaining attention. There's lots of high-level words there. Let's try to whittle it down to just the important words. I think we all know what attention means and memory. So we're trying to help students remember things, I guess, and have a better attention. Sustaining attention would be like focusing on the task and not getting distracted, right? So again, focus on the words you do know. And since the question on the right says, although Dr. Ratney claims that this project, so clearly we're basically paraphrasing his ideas there by choosing one of these 4 answer choices. Are there any vocabulary words in those answer choices that really connect strongly to the notion of better memory, better attention? I think there's one answer and one answer only that really jumps out, and I'm curious to see which answer you think is correct.
C.
Okay.
Yep.
Everyone says good. Ta-da! And the word there is concentration, right? So this is the key. If you're improving a student's concentration, it sort of means the same as sustaining the attention, working with better memory. So we've been able to sort of summarize Ratney's claim. So that is indeed the correct answer. And then it continues. This writer who wrote the response says, I often find the opposite is true. So although Ratney says this, the writer says, I find the opposite is true. Indeed, it is the students that play soccer or basketball at lunchtime that, and then we've got some ideas. Before we really get into what's happening in this question, I wanted to point out one, I think it's our last time management tip. As you're reading through, this is kind of like a grammar point again. It's not a verb tense thing though, it's something different. I want you to be mindful of connecting words, transitions or conjunctions that will very easily allow you to identify the relationship between ideas in a passage. So oftentimes you'll see a couple of sentences and right in between them, you'll see different words. So for instance, if the ideas are all similar, you'll see words like in addition to, or also, or furthermore, moreover. All of those words signal to you that those ideas being discussed as a group are all really in agreement, talking about a similar theme. However, you might see words that signify an opposite. And I just did that, right? With the word however, or in contrast, or in an opposite idea, something like that. So be on the lookout for words that you see like this, because when you can understand how those ideas that you're reading, as you go through the text, how they relate, you're going to, I think, be able to choose the right answer a lot more quickly because it just makes sense to you from that time frame standpoint. So to answer this question effectively, I'm going to back up our eyes a wee bit. And we're going to start here. You notice this word although, and when we use the word although, it's a subordinating conjunction that indicates an opposite idea is coming into play. So this writer, it's a high school teacher writing in, says, although Dr. Ratney claims that this project will improve students' concentration, I often find the opposite is true. So you're basically looking now at those 4 answer choices, and you are going to pick the one idea that most accurately reflects the opposite of Ratney's idea. And we've already answered question 7. We know that Ratney's claim is that exercising in the classroom will improve students' concentration. So if this writer thinks the opposite is true, of those 4 answer choices presented, I think there's really only one that gives us that opposite or that contrast. Which one would you select if you're looking at it from that time or that mind frame? Which makes sense here? What's the opposite of improving concentration? What would you go with here?
A.
Are most likely to fade. Okay. Are most likely to fade. Yeah, if you fade, it just means that you start to lose your energy, you feel tired, you feel exhausted. And I noticed that the people in particular, the students that this writer is talking about, are the soccer and basketball players. These are the athletes who are exercising. And yet this writer is saying it's these athletes who are, he or she is suggesting, yeah, they're most likely to fade. So Ratney's idea of improving concentration, and then this secondary high school teacher's idea that these athletes at lunchtime, or after lunch rather, they start to fade. Those two ideas are in direct contrast to each other. So Ratney and this writer are on opposite ends of that opinion, if you will. The other 3 choices here are all more or less positive outcomes of what exercise would do. So again, if you're a good student or a better student, if you exercise more, if you have really great behavior and so on, those would probably coincide more or agree more with Ratney's idea, as he also thinks that students' concentration is improving, right? So those other 3 answer choices seem to be more on par with Ratney. The only one there that's different or opposite, the best choice anyway, would be choice A. So this one is indeed correct, and so on. So do you see what I mean by just that little extra layer of challenge? It's because we're answering questions in a row, and what we choose for an answer earlier on oftentimes does influence our decision-making later. So in particular, question 7, luckily for us, we got that right, because if you didn't know what Ratney's claim is, it would be really hard to understand what the opposite claim would be for this writer. Okay, so again, apply the same strategies, just be mindful that there is an order and that the entire piece flows together as one unit is all. But yeah, great work with this. This is not easy. So I'm hoping that these comprehension skills as well as time management skills will help you as you continue to study and help you finish these questions before the timer is up on the actual test. So I'm just going to wrap up really quickly here with our conclusion or our summary. These are the main steps that we took today. We started by skim reading the paragraphs first for general understanding. We're not so interested in these specific details yet. We come back to them later when we need to. I think that's a good use of time. When you get to the questions and answer choices, you need to firmly know exactly what the question's asking you to find. And then oftentimes there are words from the question or answers that you can locate right in the passage. Classic example is Dr. Ratney, blah, blah, blah. So we know we have to find out Ratney's idea. So Ratney, we look over into the passage and read more about him, and so on and so on. Always ignore unimportant details. You don't have to know it all. And it's okay if you don't understand all the vocabulary words. You'll still, I think, be able to answer several questions at least, basing on what you do understand. You might not get a perfect test, and that's okay too. I don't think you need a perfect test as much as it would be nice. But do not waste your time on details that are just not relevant or helpful in the moment. You might not ever have to come back and read about them to answer questions. And we also practice this to a degree. If you're not sure about answers, you can always eliminate ones they're obviously incorrect. Try to get down to at least 2 choices. And if you really have to guess because time is short, that's okay. You have a 50-50 chance and you might guess correctly, get lucky, and get a point. Anyway, let's wrap it there. That's a lot of material for one day. So I will come back to you now facing and see if you have any questions that I can answer for you. Again, reading is challenging, but I think the more we do it and the more we see the patterns, they sort of carry over to the next passage we read. And I hope that it starts to become automatic. Anyway.
Okay, so we do have one question, but I would want to wait for the others so that we have like a good flow. Meanwhile, I will share some thank yous.
Okay.
I think it's more than fair that you hear the thank yous. Hi, Brandy. Thank you so much for being a good teacher. Took my test 2 weeks ago and my scores were good.
Excellent. I'm so glad you got the scores you needed. Well done. It's hard work, but persevere and you'll do it. Great. Thank you for that.
Okay, and then we have another one here. Great, Brandy. It's certainly going to help significantly be my teacher for life.
Eventually, when you take your CELPIP test, you won't need me as your teacher anymore. But thank you so much for your kind words. Great. I'm glad that these tips are helpful. Hopefully, you'll put them to good use.
It's so interesting that when you're a kid and when you have access to so many teachers, you're like, yeah, I know better. And then when you're older and you're like, I wish I had a teacher for life. I feel you, Yusuf.
If only we could go back.
Okay. Okay, so here's one question, and there's a second one too, which is another very popular question. So yeah, feel free to answer it however long.
Yeah, we get this question all the time. And I think if all of you, the viewers that are still watching, I think if you just step back and think about it logically, it's a common sentiment to have that when you're following along with the lesson with somebody who's practiced a lot. I mean, I've been teaching English for 26 years. My skills are sharp because I do them every day. So I'm hopeful that these strategies I'm sharing are helpful for you. But when you're following along with somebody who knows the material well enough, of course, the connections that the teacher's helping you make are coming to you quickly. You might not have recognized those connections on your own. Likewise, even if you're studying at home by yourself, you're still in a very comfortable setting. Maybe you're in your slippers and your pajamas with your cup of coffee or whatever you have there. You've got all the time in the world to practice. There's no timer on the test counting down. So when you remove those stressful distractions and you go into the actual testing room, all of a sudden, it's for real now. It's a high stakes test that you paid a lot of money to take. And I think sometimes just the idea of wanting to do so well on that first go through the CELPIP test and having those time constraints and having other people in the test room taking the test same time as you, etc. I think that adds to the pressure and the stress. So it's normal to feel a little bit more stressed out on the real test than in a live class or at home. It is normal, but I also want you to not let the distractions and the pressure get to you. That's something I can't help you a lot with in this limited time we have. And I don't know each of you personally, of course. So I can't help you sort of divine strategies for that. But you all would hopefully find ways that will help to alleviate stress. It might be just something like getting a really good night's sleep a few nights leading up to the test, not cramming till 2 a.m. if you're getting up early to write the test, not having 3 cups of coffee before the test and you're all jittery. So there are definitely things that you can do to set yourself up for more success, knowing what to expect. But yeah, it's a very common sentiment. Rupinder, thank you for sharing it. You're not alone. I think a lot of viewers here can relate. But yeah, just trust your gut and your studying and go in there with the mindset that you've got an opportunity to demonstrate all the skills you've worked so hard on. Use that opportunity to do your best. Hopefully that'll help a little bit anyway.
Okay. We have another one. Okay. It's been great learning from you more. My exam is tomorrow. I wanted to ask a couple questions. For task 3, should we read the first sentence of each paragraph or skim the whole paragraph?
Yeah, I think I skipped over part 3 partly for time today as well. We have lots of lessons on part 3, so you can go back and look. Part 3, remember, viewers, is the different structured one. It gives you a 4-paragraph article that teaches you about a person, place, or thing. Those paragraphs are labeled A, B, C, and D. And then you get 9 statements, and you have to match those statements, the ideas discussed, in one of those paragraphs. If the idea is not there, then you must select answer choice E, saying, I can't find this idea. So that's sort of the structure. I would strongly recommend for that reading part in particular, the skim reading before you get to the statements, I find is the most useful time management tip. So you've got your paragraph A, your introduction, just like we did today in both of our reading practices. Skim read it through and figure out what the main topic is. There's one that we do in a free Zoom session online. It's all about dragonflies. I think that's free practice test B as well on our website. So you'll notice the word dragonflies mentioned in literally every single paragraph. So right away, you know the topic, and then it's up to you to skim read over the paragraphs themselves to find out the focus of each. Yes, it's about dragonflies, but paragraph B, I think, is about the life cycle, and paragraph C is about the food and the hunting techniques. So yeah, skim reading exactly like we did today, and finding the focus of each paragraph is now going to identify what that paragraph is about. So when you go to those statements, if one of the statements is talking about the life cycle, maybe it mentions how it's born as a little baby nymph or something, you'll know, oh, it's about the life cycle. So you don't look at the whole passage, you go right to the paragraph that talks about life cycle. So again, you're very quickly finding the information you need, and then you can move on. So yeah, definitely whatever works for you. If you prefer to read the statements one at a time and can finish on time, by all means, continue to do that. I just find under time constraints, it just seems better to have a plan or an outline, and then it just makes the matching so much faster as a whole to go back and forth when you know exactly what each paragraph's about. Yeah. Anyway, good luck with your test. Let us know how it goes too, please. We'd like the successful conclusion to your story. I hope it goes well.
Thank you, Yusuf. I see that Yusuf has another question, and we have answered that before as well. It's also a very popular question. So, Brandi, that will be the last question we'll be answering because we don't have anything else after that. So yes, feel free to answer that or not. It's up to you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so for writing, we can talk quickly about that. This is you're writing an email in this case. So you want to be specific with your greeting. Please do not use generic greetings like dear sir or dear madam or to whom it may concern. I wouldn't do any of that. On the test, oftentimes it's just sort of the job title. It doesn't usually even give you a name as to the person you're writing. So a very popular question we do, the one you're talking about actually, anyway, popular question we do talks about write to a restaurant manager and complain about food and service that you had that night, etc. So because you don't know the name of that manager, just use the job title, dear restaurant manager, and then you go on and write the rest of the email. So by at least giving a job title, you're being somewhat precise and specific with your ideas. Whereas if all you say is dear sir or dear madam, it is so vague and general that it could apply to anyone, right? Almost in the world. So always try to be specific as you can. Yeah. And then as far as that's the salutation, you didn't ask about the sign off, but again, I'll quickly mention it because we get this question all the time. Your sign off, at least in Canada, it differs around the world for sure. But from a Canadian culture standpoint, probably the two most common sign-offs at the end before your signature would be either the words regards or the word sincerely. So if you use either of those and then put your signature at the end, you'll never go wrong. Those are applicable to any situation. Yeah. So again, please don't overthink your greeting and your sign-offs. These are meant to be literally the easiest and fastest parts of the writing. You do have 27 minutes to write your email, but you want to spend as much time as you can on those really important and interesting details that generally fall in the middle paragraphs, right? Yeah. But anyway, it's a fair question. And as Ashwati says, she knows too, we get this question all the time. So it's a good one to cover today too.
Thank you everybody for joining us. Brandi, you're welcome to be here for this, but people are asking about private sessions from you, and I was going to say no. Unfortunately, Brandi does not offer private sessions because then that will just be taking up her whole day, and then she will not be able to perform her regular duties. But part of her regular duties is offering group webinar classes. So you can find that on our website. It's called, so it's under webinars and workshops. And depending on what score you need, so do you need if you're aiming for 9+, you have pro webinars for that. So I would encourage you to check that out. That does happen more often than our CELPIP live test. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. The webinars we've got 9 free webinars. They're all 2 hours long, and we present most of them, at least 7 or 8 of them every single month. There are a couple of level 5s that we do. We do them about once every 3 months because most of you are here for your level 9, 10 and higher. But yeah, they are presented throughout the month. There's always at least 1 or 2 free webinars every single week. So please feel free to join us for that. And it's live like this, but times 10, because we usually have even a couple of hundred people sometimes in the Zoom chat. So it's busy, it's fun. We go through each and every part of the test, one language element at a time. So there's lots of opportunity for you to ask these types of questions that you're sharing here now, and you'll get to do a lot of the practice as we go through for each part. Yeah, and it's free, the best kind, it's free.
Yes. And also I want to point out, there is nobody like Brandi, but we do have some other instructors as well, mainly because we recognize that there is a time zone difference. And so we have teachers from India, we have teachers from the Philippines, and then Brazil. And then there may be some more. So I would encourage you to check out our webinars and
Mhm.
find one that works for your time zone. And our instructors go through a training, so
Yeah.
you will still get the necessary information and coaching that you need.
Yep. And I see our producers very helpfully just shared the link in this live chat there. That will take you right to that webinar schedule that Ashwati just mentioned. So you'll see the time zone, you'll see the names of the instructors and which session. So definitely a good resource to have. Yeah.
Okay. It's been a long session. Thank you so much for joining, Brandi, and thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Good luck on your upcoming tests, everybody. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye. So I did want to mention that this is our second last episode for this year. We have one more episode next, and something that we wanted to bring up is that if you take the CELPIP test, and this has been the case since August of this year, if you write the CELPIP test for visa purposes, you can use those scores to immigrate to Australia as well. Australia has recently accepted the CELPIP test as a valid proof of English proficiency for visa purposes. While I cannot tell you specifically what visas, you can find that out from the Australian website, and I think we have that on our website as well. Our producer can share the link. So we will be talking a little bit about Australia and about Canada and how you can. What are the differences? We will be talking about that in some of the episodes going forward. But yeah, I just wanted to share that good news with you. If you take your test, if you you can use one score for two and use two and immigrate to two countries. Anyway, oh, I haven't forgot the trivia question. Let's quickly go through the trivia question. I almost did forget it. Fondue, a winter favorite food, originates in which country? And the correct answer is Switzerland. So congratulations, Blaze. You got that one right. Somebody said France, and I hear you. Like, I thought France too, but no, it's actually Switzerland. If anybody has had fondue, let me know how you liked it in the comments. I personally did not enjoy it that much. It's just too cheesy for me. Yeah, anyway. Oh, I did have chocolate fondue, and that was great. But the original, like, actual cheesy fondue was not my thing. But thank you for the correct answer. And we will see you next time. Bye.